The United States is facing unprecedented challenges as weather disasters increase in both frequency and severity. Events such as hurricanes, droughts, floods, and extreme temperatures have caused not only economic damage but also serious impacts on people's lives, especially the farming community. For farmers in Florida, which produces more than half of the U.S. orange crop, they face the risk of crop failure and heavy financial losses due to climate change. The majority of the orange crop, about 46,000 tons, is processed into orange juice and distributed across the United States, especially in Texas, a major consumer market. Agriculture is an integral part of the U.S. economy, and in every state, farmers contribute to the nation's agricultural wealth. The two leading crops, cotton and corn, play an important role in the U.S. agricultural industry, providing economic value and diverse applications. Nebraska is one of the leading corn-producing states in the United States, playing an important role in the agricultural economy and national food supply. In Montana, there are seed potato farms that have been around for more than half a century, including one that has been in operation for 59 years. These farms provide certified disease-free seed potatoes to farmers across the Pacific Northwest, ensuring quality and high yields. After harvest, potatoes are stored in optimal conditions before being transported to processing plants, where they are processed, sliced, fried, or mashed, packaged, and distributed far and wide. Montana's seed potato farms represent not only the resilience of American agriculture, but also contribute to bringing favorite foods to the tables of millions of people around the world. Although farming is often seen as a peaceful life, close to nature, the reality is often disrupted by unpredictable forces of the environment. In Texas and Kansas, severe drought and heat have caused more than $14.5 billion in crop damage, especially affecting cotton, wheat, and feed crops. The harsh weather conditions not only make it difficult for crops to grow, but also seriously affect soil quality. Despite many challenges, farmers remain persistent and creative, continuing to cultivate to feed millions of people, contributing significantly to the development of society. Where states like Vermont and Connecticut face some of the wettest conditions on record, while Hurricane Ian caused $1.5 billion in crop damage in Florida, this caused more than $34 million in damage to citrus fruits and crops like oranges in Idaho and Montana. The COVID-19 pandemic disrupted the entire potato supply chain, with restaurants and hotels closing. Demand for potatoes plummeted. As a result, the largest seed potato farms in Montana were forced to bury more than 1.4 million pounds of unused seed potatoes in a giant 140-acre hole. $1,000 in damage to just one farm across the region. This amounted to $8 million, as more than 1.5 billion pounds of potatoes were trapped. Many farmers drought-prone areas like Texas and Kansas have switched to drought-tolerant crops and improved water management practices. They installed drip irrigation systems, used moisture sensors, and collected rainwater to save, conserving water during dry periods. Some also adopted crop varieties that can withstand low humidity conditions. Ranchers also rushed to sell their cattle earlier before the peak of the drought so they wouldn't starve and save money. They also switched to raising Brahman, a type of cattle native to India that is highly heat tolerant. Farmers also invested in disaster-resistant infrastructure after the 2019 floods in Nebraska. Many farmers now build flood barriers around their homes, fields, barns, and silos to protect crops and farms in storm-prone areas. Farmers use windbreaks or plant crops in a manner that reduces wind damage during tough times. Turning surplus harvest into a resource has become a crucial lifeline to mitigate farmers' pain. For example, surplus milk was used to produce more cheese, butter, and powdered milk, which extended its shelf life and made it easier to transport and store excess fruit and vegetables, or processed into juices, sauces, and jams, or donated to food banks. In Montana, farmers mix their excess potatoes with straw and compost to create feed for their cattle, ensuring that Next year's carbs will benefit from this year's hardship. In Texas, produce that is to damage for market is sent to facilities where anaerobic digestion turns it into methane gas to generate electricity. Florida farmers have turned to converting damaged oranges into animal feed and organic fertilizer. Meanwhile, these vineyards in California hit by wildfires are using the charred remnants of the grapes to produce high-quality compost that helps rebuild soil. Fertility. Although there have been many improvements in preparing for natural disasters, the damage is still often overwhelming. When hit with full force like these in the recent years, once a disaster strikes us, farmers first assess the damage and begin the recovery process. In 2023, Texas farmers faced over $4.8 billion in losses, with a majority due to drought, and Florida's agriculture was hit with over $1.2 billion in damages from Hurricane Idali. As of 2023, about 90% of the U.S. crop acreage was insured. So often after such events, farmers typically rely on government aid and insurance payouts to rebuild, but recovery is often slow and incomplete. Then, depending on the time of year and severity of damage, farmers might attempt to replant crops after a disaster despite their destruction. American farmers always look to the future. Fields are replanted, barns rebuilt, and optimism restored. Besides natural disasters, wild animal invasion is also a huge problem in U.S. agriculture because it causes millions in losses to this $236 billion industry. Now let's take a look at the most notorious culprits that farmers across the U.S. battle. First, let's have a look at coyotes, a cunning predator that causes chaos for livestock farmers. In 2020 alone, coyotes were responsible for over 60% of all lamb and sheep predation losses, costing farmers over $21 million. Their preferred prey is young lambs. Coyotes have also been known to attack seeds, chickens, and even household pets near farmsteads. And then there are the wild beasts, the most destructive invasive species in American agriculture, spreading from Texas to California and even up into the Midwest. Wild beasts are responsible for $1.5 billion in damages annually. They dig up fields, eat crops, and destroy irrigation systems. A single boar can tear up acres of land in search of food, leaving a farm looking like a battlefield. Their population is particularly high in states like Texas, Florida, and Georgia. So how do farmers fight back against these relentless threats? For deer, farmers rely heavily on guard animals like donkeys or llamas, which instinctively protect herds from predators in more rural areas. Night patrols and trapping programs are in place, as coyotes are nocturnal and often roam when farmers are asleep. But by far the most debated tactic is coyote hunting, which is still legal in many states. Lastly, combating wild beasts is like going to war in states like Texas, where wild boar number in the millions. Farmers use hunting and trapping as their primary defense. Helicopter hunts, where farmers fly over infested fields and shoot balls from above, are not only common but also necessary evil for many large-scale farms. Others set up baited traps designed to catch entire boar family groups, aka sounders. And once, for a more aggressive approach, some farmers use dogs trained specifically for hog hunting. These dogs can track, bay, and even hold a hog in place until the hunter arrives to make the kill. This method is particularly effective in dense brush where visibility is limited and hogs might otherwise be difficult to locate. Even more advanced methods like bee-specific contraceptives are being researched to control populations without the need for mass hunts, but with bees being prolific breeders, often feels like a losing battle. Imagine losing millions of dollars worth of livestock in less than an hour. This is a cruel but true thing that can happen for many farmers. When natural disasters strike, farms are completely destroyed. Millions of cattle died when farmers failed to respond promptly to natural disasters. Natural disasters are a constant threat to agriculture livelihoods causing billions of dollars of losses annually. Cattle farms are especially vulnerable. This is because cattle depend on farmers for food, shelter, and veterinary care. Interrupted care due to natural disasters can lead to widespread animal deaths and economic hardships for farmers, according to the Food Agricultural Organization. Natural disasters cost about $1,223 billion in lost food production each year. Floods and droughts are the most frequent culprits, accounting for 83% of these losses. Regions such as Asia and Africa bear the brunt of the consequences, with losses exceeding $25 billion for each. Disaster nature poses a serious threat to herds, devastating grazing lands and disrupting food supplies, which can lead to famine. Tornadoes resulting from this storm cause more livestock damage, and the storm itself. The winds that accompany tornadoes knock down trees, and this is also one of the causes of cattle dying during the storm. The USDA reported that short-term livestock production losses from the storm were estimated at $30 million, odd including infrastructure. Among them, missing livestock accounted for around $8 million. Floods can make pastures unusable, while droughts can cause widespread food shortages. Poor sanitary conditions can cause the spread of disease in cows, causing them to die. Mass flooding is especially dangerous because the cattle can easily drown if they become trapped or cannot find higher ground. Damage barns and fences expose cattle to potential danger from predators and risk of injury from debris. We are seeing herds of cattle trapped by floods. They may be swept away. The consequences behind the floods are unpredictable. The cattle that could have died due to the flood were dragged away, and after the water receded, the corpses gradually appear. Even if the herd survives, they will face a long-term health problem from being submerged in water for days and going without food for long periods of time. When the cattle car practices were found, farmers did not deal with them immediately. They are trying to rescue the lucky cattle that had survived first. The consequences of natural disasters on livestock go far beyond the initial death toll. Disruptions in agricultural production caused by these events could lead to a domino effect, causing food shortages due to reduced milk and meat production. This affects communities whose needs are dependent on them. Cattle farmers face economic hardship due to animal losses and the burden of repairing damaged infrastructure. These disasters can also pollute water sources through floodwaters and fuel spills, affecting water quality for both humans and animals. Rising floodwaters can quickly flood pastures, trapping and drowning cattle rapidly. Rising waters often leave farmers little time to evacuate their livestock to higher ground. This disrupts the reproductive cycle and increases the risk of disease outbreaks. Research shows that livestock productivity is affected during and after disasters because of a combination of factors, including limited access to food and water, illness, and psychological stress. Besides floods and natural phenomenon that often accompany storms is thunder. Lightning bolts travel 30,000 times faster than the speeding bullet, causing instant death if they strike. Neither humans nor animals can avoid it. A tragic end for the cattle trying to escape the storm. The lightning struck a tree before hitting the cows, and 19 cattle were killed in that single lightning strike. Most of the cattle would hide under the trees, and they were fine before the storm. That after the storm they all unfortunately died. The tree they were hiding in had scorch marks, and the trunk was split. Farmers can rely on signs on carcasses or in the environment to determine if the cattle died from lightning strikes. Farmers need to watch out for heat waves and droughts. These also pose a significant threat to cattle health and survival. Extreme heat can lead to heat stress, a condition characterized by dehydration, increased respiratory rate, and ultimately death. Studies have shown that heat stress can also negatively impact milk production in dairy cows. On the other hand, drought can cause severe water scarcity, causing cows to become dehydrated and malnourished due to a lack of enough Food to forage. Although data on specific cattle deaths due to a drought is limited, it remains a growing concern for livestock and farmers worldwide. Heat waves and droughts due to climate change are increasing in frequency and intensity during these times. Livestock are the silent victims of natural disasters. Next come wildfires. These can engulf pastures and bars with devastating consequences fast. Moving fire leads little time to escape, and cattle trapped in the fires are often seriously injured or die. When the largest wildfire in Texas history tore through the Panhandle in late February, thousands of livestock burned along with more than 1 million acres of grassland. Fires have rocked America's largest cattle ranching region. Agricultural damage caused the total product value to decrease by $29.8 million. Another catastrophic Texas farm fire killed 8,000 cattle. Although firefighters continued to fight the blaze, the rancher lost everything overnight. The devastating storm caused tornadoes and record snowfall in South Dakota. The cattle were in the pasture, and the blizzard hit. They quickly got cold because their winter coats had not yet fully grown, and the cattle were completely exposed to the blinding snow. Some wandered for miles before collapsing and suffocating in the falling snow. Although winter thunderstorms are not new to this area, this blizzard surpassed even the worst predictions. The blizzard brought high winds ranging from 30 to 80 mph and dumped 18 to 20 feet of snow. Livestock farmers are suffering after a record snowstorm. The worst has come, man. Thousands of cattle have died in the thick snow and bitter cold. The cattle that were lucky enough to not get stuck in the snowstorm still faced many different difficulties on the farm. Cold snaps and heavy snow can also affect the health and comfort of pets. Besides this, too much snow affects food transportation. Farmers must regularly push snow to clear access roads and clear animal paths after a natural disaster. Rebuilding a herd can be a lengthy and expensive process. Most facilities will need to be repaired. Besides this, dealing with a number of cattle that died in the disaster is also a huge challenge for farmers and Related industries farmers can also create a safer future for their cattle and ensure the sustainability of the livestock industry in the face of climate change, preparing food reserves to prevent natural disasters, working closely with government agencies to facilitate faster responses in an emergency, helping to evacuate livestock to a safe area faster. This minimizes losses and improves overall farm resilience.